Hi everyone, from me, Brent Graham, Thursday night, 9 o'clock, time for the Handicap Rugby Chat that matters. Well, we don't have any South African teams in action this weekend, but we certainly got plenty of fixtures to get through, both in the United Rugby Championship and the Gallagher Premiership. We've got the Bunnings NPC, and I didn't realise it at the start of the week. We've got a couple of internationals as well. One of the bigger handicaps you'll see in the international game. We'll discuss that later in the show. But without further ado, let me introduce my guest. He's been on the show before, but he hasn't been on for quite some time. And it's hello to Coyle O'Connell, Brendan O'Connell. Brendan, good to have you on the show, mate.
Yeah, good to be back, eh? I was wondering when the next invite might come, because I think I tipped England on the minus on one of those. I think it was last November, possibly. As long ago as that, believe it or not.
Yeah, it wasn't your last winner.
Hopefully not my last winner, though. Definitely not.
Oh, yeah, are you talking about the World Cup final? Are you talking about the World Cup?
No, it wasn't. I think it was the sort of the autumn internationals. I think 2020. But
okay,
yeah,
excellent.
Yeah.
No, it's been a while. Time absolutely flies. I was speaking to Oracle Rugby, Gavin Cohen, the other day, and I was saying, I haven't ever numbered my shows like the Handicap episode 1 and that, but I went in a while ago and I counted, and I think I was up to about 130 shows. So it's amazing how sort of time flies. I guess I should count it, and we should do some celebrations there. Welcome to all the boys in the live chat as well. Dino coming in there. We'll discuss him a little bit later. He's come up for a nickname of one of our panelists, which I think is going to stick. I think it's an absolute beauty, but we'll talk about that because Hendrik Swat will be joining us on the show. And well, Shark Brain, we're going to be getting to that game a little bit later. We'll talk about that. We're going to wait until Hendrik is on the show because I know he'll have an opinion on that one. And we'll definitely be discussing the handicap on the New Zealand match. But Brendan, first of all, what you been up to? I mean, you and I are good mates from back in the South Africa days. I think we met each other in '94 World Cup, and you had a betting sheet in your hand, and we thought it was easy money, and we did our absolute nuts in that tournament, as I recall. But what are you doing at the moment? You over there in the UK?
Yeah, over here in the UK. So I was a pilot for the last 20-odd years or so. And, COVID arrived, lost my job in Dubai, decided to come to the UK. My son and daughter are here now. My poor wife is still slaving away in Dubai. She's teaching art there. And I've done odds and ends and bits. But luckily enough, Hollywood Bets picked me up a couple of months ago. And part of their business development team here in the UK now. Because, of course, they branched into the UK and Ireland in the last sort of 18 months or so. And with the big highlight being the Brentford, they're sort of the main sponsorship and the main sponsor and betting partner of Brentford Football Club. So that's quite a good story itself.
As well. You going this weekend? I see they play Leicester.
Yeah, going this weekend. The Sunday match, I think, kick off at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's against Leicester. So it's a tough old game. It's kind of a 50-50, especially if you look at the betting. But hopefully Brentford can pull out another win, because they have played very well. I mean, a couple of highlights, I suppose. Probably the biggest highlights, probably that 3-3 draw with Liverpool, which was an amazing match.
Arsenal, I think they beat Arsenal on the opening day.
Yeah, they did. I mean, although those early days, everyone was.
Sorry?
Those early days, everyone was.
Yeah, yes, that's true. Yeah. And I mean, even the 1-0 to Chelsea, not a bad result. But let's get into the rugby.
Not a bad result, yeah.
Yeah, not a bad result at all. We'll get into the rugby because we're going to talk about a Gallagher Premiership. And we've got 5 games to talk about, certainly 5 that I can find priced up here. And I know you're a big Premiership fan. You've always been a Premiership fan, so look forward to your views on this. Northampton Saints up against the Worcester Warriors. This is a Friday night game. I've got a handicap here at the moment of Northampton Saints minus 15.5 and a total points line of 50.5. What do you think?
Brent, this is one of those times, we always like to start the weekend on a winning note. There's nothing worse than starting your weekend, losing on a Friday, whether it be the morning or the evening games. It's actually a tricky game, I think. I think the handicap looks about right, and it all just depends whether Worcester can improve in any kind of form or manner. There was a lot of talk about them early on. Just before the season started, they brought in a couple of players. They brought in that Duane van der Merwe, and they had that Rory Sutherland coming in at loose head prop. These 2 players, plus a couple of other signings, and they'd invested quite a bit, I think, into sort of new training and new conditioning coaches as well. They started off quite well, and they beat London Irish, which, looking back now, is probably not the greatest achievement that they've done so far. But since then, it's gone from bad to worse. They were absolutely smoked last week by Leicester. And before that, the week before that, they were drilled by Exeter 42-5 or something like that. So coming off two very heavy defeats, they've made a number of changes to their side, as have Northampton Saints as well. I would say Northampton Saints are probably more that they've got sort of the core of their team. There's only one or two kind of changes. I think the Warriors are trying to just change things around and just try and see what the big problem is there. But they've got this. The head of sort of training and coaching is Alan Solomons, and I don't know. I just think he just doesn't. I don't think he hasn't really gone with the times. I don't think, and the adapting and the ability to change his sort of format of players is not there. So getting back to it's a Friday night. I've got quite a strong call on this one. I'm actually going to go with the unders in this quite strongly. It's around the 50.5 point mark. The handicap, yeah, I'm not going to get involved in that. I think the handicap looks about right. If I really had it into my head, I'd probably go with the Saints to cover it. The Saints had a very, very good record over the Worcester Warriors. I think they've won the last 11 matches between the two. But you can kind of, I expect Worcester maybe to have a bit of a stronger defense this time around. They're going to maybe just try and frustrate Northampton. I'm just having a look now who the referee for that. I think it's Ian Tempest. He's sort of like an average over under. He's probably around the normal, I'd say. But at 50.5 points, that line, I do fancy that, because I don't see Worcester Warriors scoring many points. And I just think that their defense might just improve somewhat in that game. And as a result, I'm looking at about a 35 to 45 point region, somewhere around there for the game. Right. Where the conditions are good, but there will be a little bit of dew on the ground. It'll be about the only thing.
Yeah, and just looking at the boys in the live chat, a little bit of a split here. Most of the guys coming in on the Warriors plus, but at the Crow Tips on Twitter there, he is saying he can't oppose the Saints team, where he can't have Worcester against the Saints. So, as you suggest, I think the handicap's probably quite well set here, Brendan. But I know you're a little bit like someone who's joining us in a few minutes' time on the show, who's a bit of an unders player. You've always enjoyed your unders. You and I have often been against each other, because I've generally been an overs punter, although I must admit that has changed a bit over the years as I've started punting more unders. But
in fact, Brent, I can remember like years ago, when we used to get very heavily involved in spread betting and things like that. And we would dive in, you'd see a spread, sort of the Canterbury Crusaders versus, I don't know, the Bulls on tour or something. And we would climb in at like 33 plus, or that type of thing. Yeah. And so often, it just didn't work out for ourselves. And I've actually find so much more enjoyment in the unders. And I'm exactly like Henrik in the way he thinks,
Well, look what Henrik says. He's obviously waiting to come on the show after this, but he says, between the two of you, the chances of an over is about 100 to 1.
I'd say it's pretty accurate. That's for sure. Eh? I mean, I had that awful game. When was it? It was in Connacht. I think I took over 45.5 points in Connacht versus someone. Who was it, man? It was a couple of months ago now.
That wasn't the game which had 40 first half points, was it?
It was. I think it was 45 first half points. I had over 45.5.
Oh, no.
And it was 0-0 at the second half. I know it was Connacht and they played someone. I think it was one of the Welsh teams, but Oh my God, yeah. So my form with overs is poor, but my form with unders, yeah. And I enjoy it. I love it. I absolutely love it. You know what I mean?
Like Henrik, nothing better than the old collapse scrum there. Well, let's move on to the next game, Brendan. We don't have any more points lines at this point. I don't know if you've seen any, but I think they normally only come out after the teams are announced. But we got the Leicester. We've had a cracking start to the season. I think the Leicester Tigers are actually, if I saw a stat somewhere, I can't remember if it was on Twitter or on the forum, where it was, but Leicester Tigers have beaten all their handicaps, I think, this season. And they're minus 6.5 at home to Sale.
Okay, yeah. I think it was Thoughts and Sports, or one of the lads, they were tipping Leicester to have a really good season. I remember reading it somewhere.
So I know Alex, who comes on the show, someone's at UK Rugby Bets. I think he is on Twitter.
Yes, was it him?
He actually said to me, I think he got a nice price, Leicester, to finish top 4 or something like that. He was very firm on Leicester. And Thoughts on Sports was probably on them as well. I mean, he's so shrewd.
But yeah, I kept that at the back of my mind, and they've been terrific, But it's a team that that has improved over the last couple of seasons. And I think they had huge management and politics going up in the old boardrooms and that kind of thing. Who was the Irish fullback that used Jordan Murphy? I mean, he was a great player for Leicester Tigers. But once he sort of got involved there, the side just went backwards. The whole sort of club and everything else went backwards. He's been gone now, I think, for sort of 2 years or so, 2 to 3 years probably by now. And you can see it, big change. Steve Borthwick, I think he's, the main coach now. And, you can see it, their style of play, very forward driven, but they've got some nice backs and exciting sort of runners out the back as well. This match, I'm expecting a big forward tussle. Look, the weather's good. It's a 3:00 kickoff on Saturday afternoon. I'm pretty strong on a fancy here, and I quite fancy Sale on the plus. I really do. I think, Sale bounced back to form last week quite nicely, and I think AJ McGinty will be back. And he was concussed a couple of weeks ago, and his replacement that came in, I can't remember his name now, but he was pretty good. But yeah, they got a good victory last week, and I think plus 6.5 is the way to go. I think there'll be very little between the two at the end. Total points lines, no real idea. It's a funny old pitch that the Tigers have. Very often they can sort of dig up and look quite crummy at times, but they do manage to score a lot of points there. Having said that, both defenses I think will be up for it. So I probably would once again have a look at the unders.
You just wasted 30 seconds of our time, Brendan. We knew you were going unders. You could have just said that straight away.
But definitely the plus 6.5 Sale. I really like that a lot in this game. Leicester will be going for what? This will be their 6th win in a row. And I think Sale, the kind of team that could just disrupt the party.
Possibly end the run and certainly beat the handicap. Shark Brain, I'm looking at player bets, but most of the bookies, I did see Sunbet as well, also had the Gallagher Premiership out there. And Crow Tips likes the 6.5. Brendan, let's get into the next game. It's the Exeter Chiefs against London Irish. Now, last week, I know you were bullish on London Irish to beat Gloucester, I think it was, and I think it was a 25-all draw. In the end, I didn't see the game at all, so I don't know if you were unlucky or lucky. Well, not lucky, but I don't know if you sort of narrowly missed it or if you just got up for the draw. But here they are. Here they're starting massive underdogs against the Exeter Chiefs. You've got minus 17.5.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed the show last week, and sort of the description that was given by Neil, I think, with regard to London Irish, I think described the whole situation really well. They've got the same sort of bunch of players playing week in, week out. They're from all corners of the earth. In fact, I don't know how many English or even Irish players even play for London Irish now. You've got Australians and Fijians and all sorts, I mean, they've been like that for years. I really fancied them massively last week. They were leading 17-6 and they blew it, basically just blew it. They had a drop kick that missed in the last couple of seconds of the game that would have won it for them. They would have sent me into orbit and would have made, topped off a really good weekend. But they just can't seem to get over the line. They started the first couple of games where they conceded points horribly. Then they began to improve, and then their discipline began to let them down. They just don't seem to have, they've got Creevy at number 2. I think he's their top try scorer. So, someone like Hein would probably be quite excited with that one. But, their backs, they've got a couple of good backs, but they just don't seem to have a real spark or a real engine or a couple of players that can really sort of bring it forward and turn their form around. So 2 draws, 3 losses, I think. They're playing the same team week in, week out. I think they're in for a hiding this weekend. And, I hate it, 1 week going for a side and then the next weekend, you know what it's like. You sort of brass them off and they come back and they play their hearts out and they end up invariably sort of like screwing your bet because you avoid, you oppose them. But for me, Exeter, I think they'll cover this cap quite comfortably. Yeah, this is
right. Let's move on.
Another
like
decent
Exeter,
bet. Yeah,
I like Exeter on the cap there. The next one is Gloucester Rugby. Well, Gloucester against the Newcastle Falcons, and here we got Gloucester minus 4.5 point favourites against the Falcons, who certainly in the early parts of the season delivered some handicaps.
Yeah, they have. They played really well so far. Last season I think they were the worst away team in the Premiership. I think they might have lost 10 out of 11 away games, something horrendous like that. Gloucester, the big improvers, they came back to snatch the draw last weekend. Did they deserve it? I don't think they did, looking at the highlights. But I might just not think... I mean, Gloucester are a flashy side, and they've got some wonderful backs, as we've seen. But they've also got a strong pack. It's just the performance, the 80-minute performance. I mean, they let Sale back into that game, which they just snuck. What was that, 33-32 or something? I think Sale scored 3 tries in the last 5 minutes of the game or something. That was 2 weeks ago. Initially, I began to think sort of Newcastle might have a bit of a sniff here, because I don't think there's that much of a difference between these two sides, personally. But it's probably a game I'm not going to get involved in. I think the handicap is nicely set. I think there's plus 5.5 and plus 6.5 over here in the UK. Still no bet for me. Yeah, I've got no fancy there.
No bet for you, and I'm not even going to ask you what you'd be going on the points. This is obviously.
I wouldn't even have a bet. Yeah.
Last game of the Premiership, Harlequins up against Bath. Bath took an absolute hammering last week against Saracens. They were pulverized. It was a Sunday, and my Sunday form has been poor. I'd recovered. I'd started the weekend badly. I pulled slightly ahead by the time Sunday arrived last week. And I looked at Saracens over 27.5 points, and I thought, should I or shouldn't I? And in the end, I thought, no, I'm just going to relax. I'm going to lie on the couch. I'll watch the game, but I'm not going to have a bet. And, of course, I think they scored their 28th point in about the 14th minute or something ridiculous. They went absolutely crazy. And
that was carnage.
Yeah, I mean, Bath was shocking, though. And now they're big underdogs again against Harlequins. We've got minus 16.5 quins here, Brendan.
Yeah. I actually fancied, I never had a bet in that game, but I fancied Bath I think there was as much as Bath plus 10.5 just before the off last Sunday. I remember looking at it thinking, that's big. And Bath didn't have a bad record against Saracens historically. But they just never rocked up. And I mean, they got absolutely hammered. I mean, I've never seen anything like that. It was just try after try after try. And there was no defense. No one was taking responsibility. Poor old Cipriani, I know he's come under a lot of fire here in the UK on his performance, but it was a whole shambolic team performance that was just awful. And yeah, it's quite frustrating to see that, because the week before I'd had quite a large bet on Saracens to beat the handicap against the Newcastle Falcons of all teams, and I had 16.5, and they won by 15. And here they are away at Bath. I mean, it just goes to show how crazy, rugby can be at times. And they absolutely smash them to bits and pieces and win by 50. I mean, Quinn's weather is good. I think the referee for this game is that John Makepeace. He's only had sort of like 8 or 9 Premiership starts so far. So I can't really get a good feel on him yet. There should be points. There should be lots of points. Are Bath going to be able to bounce back? They probably can, but Harlequins are just playing so well. They kind of remind me now of almost like a Canterbury team where they can score 2-3 tries. You can jump on the plus and think you're safe, and in the last 10 minutes they can score 2 tries and nail your handicap. So once again, I think the handicap is probably pretty well set. Harlequins could win by 30, but they could also just battle to get over this handicap as well, possibly. So if anything, yeah, Harlequins on the minus, possibly, but otherwise, no bet for me. I'd probably have a look at the total points, and it's probably going to be sort of the early 50s or the mid 50s. Would I have a look at that on going overs? Maybe I'll have a look at the Harlequins points. Maybe that's where they go. Yeah, something like that. Maybe. You're probably going to look at something quite high, though. Hey, I mean, you're looking at sort of 16.32.
Probably 37.5.
Probably around there. Yeah, which seems quite high at first, but if Bath show up and play like that again, well, it should be easily covered.
Excellent. Well, let's welcome our next guest who's joining us, Brendan, for the last part of the show. And he's the unders taker. And credit here to Dino, who's a regular on the show. He said on Twitter this morning, and go to @Zambust on Twitter to look at his tweet. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. He said, we got the conductor, we got couch critic, but Henrik doesn't have a nickname. And he says, let's call him the unders taker. And I thought that was absolutely brilliant, because, I mean, we know Henrik is the unders taker. And Henrik, first of all, thanks for joining us on the show. I know you were under a bit of pressure tonight. The wife's away on business, left you with the kids, but the chloroform did the trick. They're fast asleep.
Yeah, Brent, I'm going to embrace the nickname by Dino. I think it's appropriate with me, and I think with Brendan as well, being an unders. Yeah, I like it. It's quite good. Got a wife who's not here. She's up north in your part of the world. But yeah, luckily I got the kids to bed so I can be on the show.
Excellent. We're going to get straight into the United Rugby Championship. And Henrik, we're going to start with you. The first game is a Friday night at Glasgow. Sorry, Brendan?
Yep. There's the one match still on Sunday. Saris against...
sorry. It wasn't priced up. So I missed that one.
Saris Wasps. I got it opened up at 16.5, which I took a little bit of, not much. It's now to 24 points because Wasps are sort of showing up with a sort of second stringer side that they've decided. I think they've now realized the Saracens are so strong. I think they're now beginning to sort of manipulate their teams and their team selections and things like that. So yeah, it's gone out to 24 already. But once again, I mean, you know, which Saracens team will rock up and, you know, they could devour that 24-point handicap, which is quite high now, but it could be quite low at the same time. So I'm happy with my tiny bet at 16.5. And yeah, maybe I'll just wait to see. I might have to use it as a get-out stakes on Sunday. Otherwise, it'll just be a watching kind of verse, I think. Yeah, that's any other one.
It'll be a watch for me because after sitting out last Sunday and then picking the winner, now if I get involved this Sunday, I'm going to lose. The conductor just coming in and confirming the team news there for the Wasps. 12 injuries. I'm sure they're not inquiries. Hopefully not. And 8 players to be rotated. And yeah, there we go. He's corrected it underneath. It's good to have you on board here, conductor. The boys are asking what you're up to. But let's get into the United Rugby Championship, and I'll start with Henrik. The Glasgow Warriors up against Leinster tomorrow night, Henrik. We've got a big handicap here. Warriors plus 13.5 and a total points line of 48.5.
Yeah, Brent. I've got one or two fancies on the URC. I'm not that strong on all the games, but I'll give my opinion. Leinster. Yeah, they've been tough to follow this season. The previous seasons they were amazing, and you can always bank on them taking the overs or the minus. But yeah, this season I'm not convinced about them. And Glasgow at home, I haven't seen any team news. In this competition, I don't follow the team news that closely, and I know you should if you're punting it, but I'm not punting it that hard. Mostly just before the game, I'll have a look. Except when the SA teams are involved in, I'll look earlier in the week. But yeah, for me, Glasgow at home, plus for me, just a small fancy. What did you say was the points?
48.5.
48.5. Yeah, that's about right, I reckon. So no real strong fancy. If anything, maybe an unders punt on Leinster, but that's dangerous territory. So yeah, for me, just a plus on Glasgow under 13.5.
Yeah, Mark coming in and saying Leinster at full strength. I'm a big Leinster fan. They have burnt me a little bit of late, although last week I must tell you they got my weekend going. I think I was over 34.5 points on Leinster last week, and they really did look impressive at times. Obviously, playing at home there, I know Dave Cooney was actually at the ground. Let's see, Brendan's got a firm view on this one. Brendan?
Yeah, I agree. It was Leinster of old sort of last week, and they played really well. But before that, you know, sort of the previous 3 or 4 matches, yeah, I caught them wrong. They're sort of a team for me that I just can't seem to catch right. You've mentioned, like in the past, they've been very good to you, and yeah, they have been in previous years. And I still have a big question mark about them. 13.5. Yeah, it looks about right. Weather should be good. Yeah, if anything, I might lean slightly towards Glasgow on the plus, but it's not a game I'm going to get too involved in.
Right, well, let's stick with you for the next game then. It's the Scarlets, who've been very disappointing the last few weeks. Big hammering at the hands of Munster, and then, I was quite pleased last week they took a hammering at the hands of Leinster as well. They're now back at home, and they're playing a Benetton Treviso here, Brendan, and we got a handicap here, player bets at -4.5, the Scarlets. But I have seen, I believe your crowd, Hollywood, actually was sitting at about 9.5. So there's been a lot of money for the Benetton here, which I'm not going to lie, surprises me a little bit because I don't trust the Italian sides on the road, although it looks like a South African side looking at the team sheet.
Yeah, that's true. Eh? I looked at this game initially and I thought to myself, I'm not going for an Italian side. But as the week has drawn on and we come closer to the game, I see myself looking at Benetton and thinking these guys have got a chance. Only because it's Benetton and because the Scarlets are just so poor at the moment. If I can get sort of +6.5 Benetton, that's where I'm going. Yeah.
Right. Well, similar, Dino, they're saying even if you can get 5.5, he's on. And it seems like the boys are fairly united on the plus. We'll see what Henry thinks. I'm going to stick my neck out and say, I don't have any faith in this Benetton side. I'm not getting involved in the plus here. Henrik, what do you make of this one?
So, Brent, like you said, Scarlets, that game against Munster, that one sticks out there. Because Munster, they went there not at full strength and they hammered Scarlets. So, stuff backing the Welsh sides at the moment. And Benetton, they are the of the two Italian teams, they are the better one. They have quite a few quality teams. For me, also just a small play on the plus here. Not strong at all, but I like the plus here a bit.
Right. So you're on board with the plus. So I'm a bit. I know Scarlets took a hammering last week against Leinster, but there were periods in that first half where I thought they looked pretty good. So I was surprised, a little bit surprised to see this line move. There's my echo there. It sounds like it's my echo coming through. But anyway, let's move on to the next game. And Hendrik will stick with you. Zebre up against Edinburgh. Zebre are +4.5 at home to Edinburgh.
Now, Brent, Zebre is one of the teams. Before I start on that, I like to back certain teams and to oppose certain teams, and I take a firm view early in the season on certain teams. And if it goes my way, I keep going that way until I get burned 1 or 2 times. And Zebre is one of the teams I oppose. I've opposed them successfully so far this season, and also going against them on the handicap end, and also taking unders on their points. I was successful the last 2 weeks taking unders on Zebre points. So this is my strongest fancy on the URC. Edinburgh on the minus here. I like the -4.5. Edinburgh, even though they are the away team. And I'll also be looking at unders on Zebre points. So that's my strongest fancy on the URC.
Right, let's go to Brendan on this game. Brendan, Zebre, not a side you can trust. They lost to the Lions in week 1, as I recall.
Oh God, yes. Oh yeah, that was one of the first big knocks of the URC. Thankfully, it's been a bit better since then. But yeah, that Lions. I think I went low on the Lions points in that match. It's like 18.5.
They were 35 not up.
Exactly. I mean, it was an absolute disaster. And then, like Henrik, I've caught them right the last 2 weeks. I've gone unders on Zebre the last 2 weeks. And like Henrik says now, I think I'm just going to continue that mold as well. I can't see Zebre changing in any way. Yes, the Scots are away from home, and sometimes they can flatter to deceive on occasions, much like the Welsh. But, oh man, Zebre just look poor. And yeah, Edinburgh, rubber stamp from me. And we'll have a look at the Zebre unders as well. I'll be with Henrik in that one as well.
No doubt both of you will be on the Zebre.
We're like twins.
But you're both on Edinburgh. It's always nice when the guests rubber stamp each other's selections there. Let's stick with you then, Brendan. We got Cardiff Rugby, who did the business for us in the newsletter Best Bet last week. We took the -3.5. I must say it was tough going. The Sharks dominated a long period of the second half, but Cardiff good enough in the end to beat the handicap and deliver a win. If you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, There is a link in the subscription box below. But back to the game, Brendan, we got -7.5 Cardiff against a Dragons side that is, well, they've impressed at times this season. I mean, they ran Leinster within a point at home. I know we got Jules. Jules is watching the show. He's a big Dragons man, and he'll give us his opinion on this one, I'm sure, in the live chat. But what do you think here? -7.5. Can they beat Dragons by more than a score?
What time is that kickoff, by the way? I want to have a look. See, it's
6:15.
one of the later ones.
6:15 South African time. So
6:15 South African time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be sort of 5:15 here. So it'll just be getting dark here. Conditions are good. It is a Welsh derby. Dragons have improved. My initial thoughts on this game was Cardiff on the minus. 7.5. If I can sneak the 6.5, that'll make a world of difference. But I prefer Cardiff just as a team. Dragons, they improved. I mean, that game against Leinster, one at home where they lost 7-6 or 6-7.
Yes.
Oh man, I was tearing my hair out.
By the way, I was on the
Yeah.
points in that game.
I've never seen anything like it. It was cut and paste. Leinster would get the ball, they would drive into the Dragons 22, penalty. Boom, kick it back, Leinster come back into the... It must have happened. They must have got about 13 or 14 penalties in their own 22, defending penalties, you know. That was an awful game to watch. And then they went over to Connacht, right, and beat Connacht comfortably. That game straight after that. The fact that it's a derby, 7.5, you would, in normal times, I'd probably go with the plus. But I just don't trust this Dragon side. And I think Cardiff have the ability to hurt you. So, I don't know. For me, it would be a marginal Cardiff on the minus.
But just coming in on the conductor's comment there, Brendan, he's saying the Welsh international's missing this weekend, which I don't know the team. I do follow this rugby, but I tend to follow you guys, and I follow teams. I still haven't got to know even all the players in the league yet. But who does that impact more than if there are no Welsh internationals around?
Gosh, I'd say Cardiff. It would be Cardiff. I didn't even know that. You know what I mean? And much like Henrik referred to earlier on, these sort of games, very often, I'll sort of only make my call sort of maybe an hour before. I'll go through, I'll check the team selections, and once I'm a bit more comfortable with that, then I'll, have a proper strike. But yeah, that's something that could be quite important. The Dragons probably lose. I don't even know who they would lose. There might be one or two players possibly, but Cardiff would be seriously affected, I'm sure, as would Ospreys and the Scarlets for that matter. But which makes Benetton maybe a better bet. We better have a look at that.
Now we're jumping,
yeah. But I still fancy sort of Cardiff. Yeah.
Right, Brendan Vessels is coming there. Cardiff and Scarlets missed the most. Dragons could miss a few as well. We're gonna come in with Henrik now, but just to mention, Jules does make the point that last week all of us loved the Dragons, and of course they were hammered by the Stormers. They were very poor indeed. Let's go to the unders taker and see what his opinion is on this one.
Yeah, Brent, Dragons, they were impressive early in the season, like you said, and then last week surprisingly lost against the Stormers. The Stormers have got a good back, and that probably hurt the Dragons. And yeah, you got guys like Geland, great playmaking. So yeah. I actually liked the Dragons a bit against the Stormers, so I was surprised at that one, even though the Stormers has been playing all right. And I was on Cardiff minus against the Sharks as well. I followed Thoughts on Sport and Brendan Vessels on that, and they delivered. But yeah, even I didn't know about the Welsh players being unavailable, but even if both these teams were at full strength, I would have liked the plus here because it's a Welsh derby and because the Dragons showed some form early in the season. But now with the Welsh players not being available and Cardiff probably losing one or two more than Dragons, I like the Dragons even stronger here. So I lined this up as a small play, but I'll upgrade it to medium play on the plus. Yeah, I like the Dragons plus more than. So yeah. One converted try plus 7.5 in a Welsh derby. I like the Dragons.
Right, let's move on to the next game, and we'll stick with Undertaker there. Connacht Rugby plus 3.5 against Ulster, who were too strong for the Lions last week, although not quite beating the handicap. They did deliver the overs points line, which I was pretty happy about. Henrik, this game we got the plus 3.5, the home team.
Yeah, Ulster, Brendan Wessels also, he was onto them early in the season, and I've been punting them successfully, following him on them, and now going on them. And Connacht, I've always been a fan of Andy Friend. So with this being a derby as well and being a home game for Connacht, you would think Connacht is the way to go here. But I just can't go against Ulster. They've been so mightily impressive. And minus 3.5. That's a small gap, a small minus. So you can basically just call the who you think would win the game, and if you like Connacht, go for the win. Don't worry about the plus. And if you go Ulster, go on the minus. I'm on Ulster minus here. I like Ulster. I'll keep backing Ulster as well this season, as long as they keep delivering for me.
Right, let's see if Brendan's got an opinion on this one. Connacht, I think it was a game against Munster. I was quite impressed with them. They delivered a nice plus handicap there. I think I can't actually remember if they won the game. They certainly looked like winning it at one point. And what have we got here, Brendan? The plus 3.5. Are you siding with Henrik with the Ulster there, or are you a Connacht man?
Funnily enough, Connacht delivered a big bet last week for me. I think there was plus 16.5. The guys jumped on it early on in the week. And I think by the time game time came, that's kind of the problem sometimes with me, sort of taking my bets quite late until I'm happy with the teams and what I think might happen in the game. I got 13.5, but I never had to really worry. They lost 20 points to 18. There was a last penalty to Munster the Ross Byrne guy, he kicked it, and that was the end of that. So Connacht, shattered. You can see on the players, I mean, they were absolutely distraught after the game. They'd really picked themselves up. And now they've got to go home and pick themselves up against a strong Ulster team, possibly not at full strength. 3.5 points. Yeah, Connacht caught them last week nicely, but generally it's a side that I just can't pick them on most occasions. 3.5 points. The way they trounced the Bulls, and then they got smashed by the Dragons, the week after that, and then they come and they play this terrific game against Munster. I just don't know what to expect from them. 3.5 points. Yeah, if anything, I probably would lean on towards Ulster's side of things, just on the consistency side of things. But Connacht could win the game as well. So, if anything, I would have a marginal on the minus on Ulster here.
Marginal minus, but not strongly. Henrik is a little bit stronger on Ulster, but none of you overly bullish on this game. Could be one to wait for closer to the time and certainly look at the points line.
Yeah.
Brendan, I'm going to start.
And I never had a look at the conditions either. I'll have a look while you guys chat there. But I think that was a good
for the last game. Ospreys up against Munster, Henrik. And here we got the Ospreys plus 11.5 against Munster, who I know you're not a big fan of the coach, but they've been fairly impressive this season.
Yeah, Brent, I'm not, like you said, I'm not a fan of Johan van Graan. And Munster is one of those teams for me, like the All Blacks at the moment, because I don't like the coaches. It's either oppose them or no bet for me. And with Ospreys, with the Welsh team struggling against the Irish teams, and with Brendan Wessels telling us now that the Welsh player is not available, that's a bit of a red light for me on Ospreys. So this game is a no bet for me. I'm not going to take Munster on the minus, and I can't take Ospreys on the plus after that news. So this is no bet for me on this game.
I've got a feeling we're going to be talking about another coach that you got similar feelings for later on in the show, but we'll certainly get to that one. Brendan, can you give us a conditions report on Connacht and then tell us what you think of Ospreys Munster?
You know what? I'm just having a look here. I was just looking at the message that Henrik had sent me with the referees, and it's got Connacht against Ulster, and it's been played at the Aviva Stadium in Dublin.
Mad Dog Odds just confirming that on the live chat there. He says it's very much.
Oh, is he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because the referee's Andrew Brace, and of course I just looked at Galway and it was pouring with rain, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to really think about this game now. But now it's being played in Dublin, and the weather, yeah, there's a chance of rain. In fact, there's a pretty good chance of rain during the match as well, but a 75% chance of rain in Dublin. So now how does that work out things with the 3.5 point handicap? Yeah, okay, we'll have to think about that one. But anyway, yeah, like it's been played on neutral ground. It's in Dublin, so that will favour Ulster, no doubt. So maybe the 3.5 is looking a lot more juicy at this stage.
Yeah, okay. Cathal Sheehan, and once again, please, you're welcome to send me the pronunciation of your name. I'm sure I'll get it wrong. But just saying that originally this game was moved to allow for more crowds, to get more fans in, but the Irish government has allowed 100% capacity, so it has backfired somewhat there for them. Let's just get your opinion on Ospreys Munster, Brendan. That's the last game, plus 11.5 Ospreys.
Gosh, that looks like quite a big handicap. Yeah, Munster were sublime in that demolition of Scarlets with sort of their second team. Ospreys went away. Who they beat last week? It was Zebre, right? And they sort of pulled away later on. Was it Zebre or was it who Ospreys beat last week? They were away in Italy.
Yeah, last week.
Whatever it was, I think the plus 11.5 at home, but now with a couple of Welsh players missing, gosh, yeah, I'm following Henrik, staying out of that one.
Right.
You know, we all know by the time game time comes, 30 minutes I'll be looking and having a look for the best bet that I can have.
When you say no bet on a Thursday night, it means absolutely nothing come game time. Absolutely nothing. I mean,
exactly.
It's all going to depend. Are you winning at this point of the weekend? Are you losing?
Oh,
all of that. It means absolutely nothing if you say.
And then it still doesn't matter, because if you're winning, you keep firing, and if you're losing, you're firing.
In fact, the only thing I can guarantee is you will have a bet on the game. There's absolutely no doubt. But I think it's important to have games, like if you're assessing it now on a Thursday night, emotion taken out of it, you're not winning or losing yet on the weekend. And if you call a no bet now, that's a fair comment to say, look, you don't fancy anything. Now the fact is, yes, your mind is going to be influenced. You're going to see someone tweet something, or you're going to see a dark cloud in the background on someone's Twitter pic or something like that, and you'll be influenced.
Correct.
But anyway, we're going to get into the Bunnings. Brendan, I know you're not a massive, I know you punt the Bunnings, but I know you tend to follow guys like the conductor, like Brendan, on sports when it comes to those punts. But just if you do have any fancy, just raise your hand, then I'll pull to you. But otherwise, we'll go through the Bunnings and then we'll move on to the two internationals. So I just want to pull up the betting here on the Bunnings. And Hendrik, but I just want to see. We've got 4 games that I can make out, and we'll start off with Friday morning's game, South African time. It's Otago against Canterbury. This is a tight game. We've got Canterbury minus a 0.5 point favourite, so the slight favourites away against Otago. I'm assuming they're playing in Otago. And then we got 51.5 points total points.
Yeah, Brent, this one opened up Canterbury minus 4.5, and Otago, if you shopped around, you could have got about 16 to 10, 17 to 10 thereabouts on Otago winning the game. They are playing in Dunedin at Forsyth Bar under the roof, so it's a home game for Otago. I've taken Otago on this season. Early on in the season, it worked out well for me, and the last 2 weeks, they were pretty impressive, and I lost on both the last 2 games. And a guy like Josh Ioane, who played terrible rugby, the last 2 weeks he's been playing quite well. And Otago, they've picked they've picked a all right team, a solid team. I don't think they actually made any changes after last week. I'm not sure, but they've got a strong team. Canterbury, they've been really poor. Last week against Ospreys, they got smashed in Christchurch. I was on Canterbury to win the game. Canterbury on the minus, but they were really poor. So this one, it's basically a choice game now. You can get about even money if you shop around on Otago. I'm going to call Otago to win the game. Earlier in the week, obviously better value on Otago. So if you're unsure, maybe wait and hope Canterbury score early and then take Otago. But yeah, I'm just going to call Otago to win the game. Take the even money. Not really strong, but all right. I'll say medium bet. And then on the points, 51.5. That's tough going unders in the NPC. Lots of times you get burned late in the game with a few late tries. And Canterbury, defensively, they haven't been that great. So I'm unsure on the points here. My thing with the NPC in New Zealand Super Rugby games as well, what I do is I've been spoken about it on the show a few times about the game of 2 halves. So I watch the first half. I'll probably get involved in the points anyway before the game. But if there's lots of points in the first half, I'll go unders at half time. If the overs on the first half doesn't happen, I'll go overs at half time. So yeah, it happens a lot of time in the New Zealand games. In my opinion, more than other games. Especially with the New Zealand derbies, you always get the game of 2 halves. So wait till half time. If it's low scoring first half, take overs. If it's high scoring first half, don't be afraid, take the unders.
Yeah, I must say, I've noticed that trend in New Zealand games, even in Super Rugby in some of the derbies. You'd have these very quick starts to the game, and then things would. I particularly like that one where it's a fast start and then you take the unders in the second half. I actually prefer that to the sort of slow start and the overs in the second half. But Henrik, just before we get on to the next game with you there, you were challenged on Twitter this week by 3Pete, who's obviously based there in New Zealand. And he did suggest that you've been one of the top punters over the last few years, which is 100% correct. But he challenged you to an NPC competition. What's happening there? And as the guy putting his money where his mouth is, has he disappeared? What's happening?
Oh, Brent, I haven't heard from him today. Yesterday, I saw all the tweets and I responded. I said, I'm up for the challenge. I'm not sure whether New Zealand has, with their lockdowns going on, they've locked down the Wi-Fi or the internet. I haven't heard anything from him today, so it's a bit of a no-show. I'm up for that challenge. I'm always up for a challenge when it comes to rugby, it comes to betting, but yeah, I'm not sure. And it's midday, probably almost now in New Zealand, so on a Friday. So yeah, I'm not sure whether the comp is going on. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to be rushed for time before the first game starts. So yeah, we're probably not going to have that comp.
Yeah, no, fair enough. He might be the kind of guy who's only getting out of bed now, possibly as well. But no, I'm just teasing, Pete, if you watch this. Henrik, let's get on to the next game, Taranaki. This has been a team that I know you followed throughout the season. They haven't always delivered for us. They're minus 10.5 against Manawatu.
Yeah, Brent, that game against Otago, the Taranaki one, I know you lost there, and I was a bit responsible for with my confidence on that one. I lost very big on that game. One of my biggest losses this year. Taranaki, they were good for me mostly this season, but yeah, that game with me going so big on that one, I lost badly. So I'm probably down on Taranaki just because of that game. This game, they've made a few crucial changes, which Brendan Wessels showed to us today as well. This morning when the team came out, Potros, the fly-off, he's been instrumental for them, and he's not playing. So Perofeta, who normally plays 15, he's playing 10. He's a fly-off, but he's been good at 15 and he's kicked well at goal. He's not played 10 for a while, and then Pitagas Suakulu, the Chiefs' 8th man, he's not playing either. And I think, if I remember correctly, it's the last week's reserve hooker who's playing 8th man this week. So, yeah, but the handicap has come in. It started about 13.5 thereabouts, and it's now 10.5. And Taranaki's forwards will probably still be good enough for that handicap. So I'll still go minus here because it's a home game, because Taranaki, their forwards have been really good. So for me, still a minus here, but not as strong as I would have been if Potros and Peter Kasuakulu would have played.
Right, the next game is Hawke's Bay against Waikato. And Brendan, by the way, I will come back to you after we finished on the NPC to see if you've got any views on any of these. Hawke's Bay, Waikato, sure. Henrik, -7.5.
Yeah, Brent, this is a Shield challenge again. And like you know, Hawke's Bay, they love the Radford Shield. They really get up for it. 2 weeks ago, they beat Tasman. It's just tough going against Hawke's Bay at home, especially with the Shield challenge. 7.5 is a bit of a tricky handicap. Waikato, they haven't been that bad, but I just can't go against Waikato's against Hawke's Bay. So for me, a medium bet probably here on the minus, just because it's a Shield challenge. But I'm not that confident in this one.
Right, Brendan just making a point that the Hawke's Bay have got a strong team, but they might be a bit gassed out. And Sharks Brain saying this looks to him like the perfect overs game. Last game of the weekend, as far as the NPC goes, Henrik, Bay of Plenty up against Northland. This is in the early hours of Sunday morning South African time. We've got Bay of Plenty -12.5.
This is -12.5. Okay, it opened up 14.5, so that's interesting. I'm not sure whether that's due to team news. The Northland, they bent me last week. The big thing here is sadly on Monday morning we learned about this tragic passing away of Sean Wainui, a legend in New Zealand. And the last game he played, he scored 5 tries, the first player ever to score 5 tries in a Super Rugby game. He played for Bay of Plenty, so Bay of Plenty will obviously be playing for him on Sunday. So that's a big one. And it's a lot of emotion involved in this game. It's interesting for me that the handicap is gone in.
I see. Just to pop in there, Henrik, I was just looking at play bets, but I pop quickly onto Sunbet. I see they've still got the 14.5. So
that's where it opened, and it's just interesting because normally player bets they get the European feeds, in my opinion, before Sunbet. From what I've seen, how the bookmakers move. So obviously, player bet they have moved, and Sunbet might move it to 12.5 then as well. But 12.5, I'm definitely taking Bay of Plenty. Just they've been impressive, and just with the tragic news about Sean Wainui. You have to go for Bay of Plenty on a minus there.
Right, Brendan, you've heard Henrik's opinion on the 4 games. Anything let's put it this way, anything that you fancy yourself, or is there any of the games where he's sort of convinced you to come in and have a punt?
Well, Henrik always talks a good talk, so he convinces me quite often. But I just enjoy listening to the conductor and Henrik, especially when they start talking about the NPC, because it's enough to sort of turn me. I could be fancying one side, but by the time they finish their spiel, I'm sort of completely on their side. I completely agree with the Bay of Plenty game. I think that the minus is the way to go there. The Otago Canterbury, I'm just thinking now what Neil really likes. He's always talking about Otago being an unders team or an unders side. And possibly, the 51.5, I'm aiming that as an unders, with respect, of course, to being the NPC and under the roof and all that kind of stuff. But I'll be going unders in Otago tomorrow morning. And then, we've got that one friendly game, right? The Wellington Lions against the Stags. The guys have already got me onto that one.
Is that a friendly?
That's the friendly, Okay. There's still 19.5. I'm having a look here. There's 19.5 here in the UK. And, the guys have persuaded me. That's a good bet. So I'll be going with the Stags plus 19.5 on that one.
Well, let me actually get Henrik's opinion on that one, because I didn't have it priced up here. But, Henrik, I'm sure you've got an opinion on that one as well.
I just don't want Henrik to say now the Lions are the best bet of the weekend.
Brent, this is a tough situation for me, because the South African books they haven't really priced up on this one, so I haven't got my bet down, so that's the issue for me.
Yes, you don't want to move the market before the market's even there.
That's
so Brendan shouldn't have opened his mouth. Is that what you say?
Brent.
You know what I did want to say?
Okay, let me say what I think about the game, and if I don't get my bet on at the price I want, that's tough. This is the best bet of the weekend. Southland on the plus here. Plus 19, plus 18, doesn't matter. Take the plus. Take them to win the game. I took a small amount of 13-2 on them to win the game. I actually put a very small amount on them to win by 13 plus at 40-1 as well. So yeah, the plus obviously, in my opinion, this is the best bet of the weekend. But yeah, I haven't got the amount I want on this yet because most South African bookers haven't priced up on this one yet.
Yeah, I've got a horrible feeling it's going to open here about plus 8.5 or something. Brendan, anything to add before we move on to the internationals?
Oh no, just another thing about the games of two halves. I really like that, and I've seen that strategy work quite often, especially in New Zealand. And another place that it can work quite often is actually in France, in the top 14. It's another funny place where there's two things, and I know Henrik will agree with this one as well. The red card in France, oh my God, get on the plus. If a team gets a red card in France, you get on the team that had the red card on the plus. I have seen the bookies; they have sort of adjusted the difference or the penalty, the penalty that the red card sort of consists of, that down to 14 men kind of thing. That's a big one. And also France, the game of two halves, a high first scoring half, first half, go unders, second half.
Right.
Yeah, you might get burned 1 out of 6, 1 out of 7, and vice versa. A low scoring French first half quite often turns into quite a big one in the second half. Not always, but yeah, it's a good strategy to lean on as well sometimes.
Yeah, well, I know, Henrik, you've also got that same, you're well known for that red card strategy. I don't think you follow the French game that closely because we don't get a lot of coverage here, but you'd certainly agree with Brendan on that red card, often being overestimated by the bookies.
Yeah, I love taking the team that gets the red card on the handicap. I'm unsure on the points on that, but yeah, as soon as there's a red card when I'm watching a game, I'll always go on the team that gets the red card. In my opinion, it doesn't make that big of a difference in the game, and the bookies overreact completely. I know it's 14 against 15, but yeah, I honestly don't think. After games, you always read that the red card cost the team and whatever, but I don't believe that. In my opinion, in rugby, the red card is not that big.
Yeah, the team that gets the card generally slows the game down, and these days the players are so fit, and there's actually so little space on a rugby field at the end of the day. So I don't think it has the impact that it would have a few years ago, where the fitness of the players might have been called into question. But let's move on to the internationals, Henrik, and I'm going to start with you. I didn't realize when I opened the Good for the Game forum thread this week that we got 2 internationals to look forward to. I did see someone post on the Good for the Game forum. It is televised. I must say I couldn't see it on SuperSport's schedule on their website, but it probably just means they haven't updated it. And we got Japan up against Australia. There was there was minus 11.5 Australia. I see this handicap has shifted out. And Henrik, here we got 13.5 Japan plus and 54.5 total points.
Yeah, Brent, Australia, they're a team that's on the up, in my opinion. The back end of the Rugby Championship, they were quite impressive, and they've really finally settling in with the Australian team. And yeah, they look well coached, and with Quade Cooper back at 10, they look like a team with direction. And Swami Kurebi, those kind of guys coming from overseas, really making difference. Japan, their team, it's, in my opinion, I saw the team, and it's not an out and out their best team. There's a few guys that probably gets tested or experimental type of in the position. I won't label it as an experimental team, just 1 or 2 positions. So yeah, for me, and Japan, when last did they play as a team? And Australia, they've got a solid half a season, or well, more than a season now with the Rugby Championship, and they have looked good. So for me, this is a very confident call in the minus, even 13.5. And then like Brendan said, this is an overs game, and afternoon kickoff, perfect weather, like he says. Overs on total points and definitely overs on Australian points. Australian points in the 30s, probably like
33.5.
Oh, that's actually lower than I thought. So yeah, that's a confident get from my side and over some Australia and very confident.
Okay, you probably get your. Yeah, I see it's under 8 to 10, so there's probably been some money for it. So you probably end up getting 35.5.
Yeah, no, I like the minus, and I like that.
I'm hearing a bit of an echo. I'm not sure if it's my side or anybody else's, but guys, just to be safe, we'll just mute in between talks. But I'm going to go over to Brendan now. Now, conductor Brendan Vessels has suggested overs. He's managed to convince the one big unders punter, Henrik, that overs is the play. The question is, can he convince two of the big unders players of our generation, even though you're in different generations, can he convince you to go overs as well?
Wow, I mean, that would be a result, wouldn't it? First of all, I know that's Paul Williams on the whistle. And I think generally, yeah, he can be quite an unders referee at times. And the TMO is old Brendan Brendan Pickerel. So it's at 2 o'clock. I think it's around at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, sort of kickoff. Weather should be good, like they say. Historically, both these teams are going to run it. First of all, I was just having a look now. There's minus 11.5 Australia here in the UK. And I can't believe my eyes, because that just jumps out at me that really should be nailed on at minus 11.5. I mean, they've gone through the whole rugby championship. They had the French tour, and Japan, I don't know when they last played. They got a couple of changes. Yeah, they got some good workman-like guys in there, and they're playing at home. So obviously they're going to come out firing from the get-go. But I mean, I suppose the last real big tests would have been that tournament at the end of last year, when they came over to the UK and they played
I think they played the Lions as one of the Lions.
Oh, they played the Lions, that's right.
If I remember correctly.
Nah, that's right. They lost like 28-10 or something like that. Yeah, that's right. So that's probably the last one that they did play then. Yeah, I mean, Australia, they're improving, and obviously they're bouncing around now that they are improving, and Quade Cooper's made such a huge difference. And I was just having a look earlier. I think they've got a 5-3 bench, and they've got guys like Tate McDermott on the bench. And I mean, he comes on a couple of sniping runs. He can easily score a try or two at the death. Yeah,
so I'm going to stop you there, and I'm going to give you the bet. Over 33.5 Australia points. That's a bet. Come on now. That's where you're heading. That's where you're heading.
That is a bet, yeah. I'd go over 33.5. I think, that sounds low to me. So over 33.5. The minus 11.5 is a slightly lesser bet, but also strong enough. But I think that Australia overs is golden. It's golden, as Sean Nicholas would say.
I had to guide you there. You weren't prepared to go overs on your own account. I had to guide you there.
Definitely overs on Australia, but would I go overs at 54.5 total points? Yeah, it's got to be close, but I probably wouldn't do the totals, no. But Australia on the overs, yeah.
Right, Brendan, we're going to stick with you. We've got a big handicap here. United States of America. Plus 67.5 against New Zealand. There was plus 65.5. There may even have been lower, I don't know. But I also know there's plus 69.5 available. And we've got a points line here of 80.5. Now, we've already had some sentiment on the show from Shark Rates, and this handicap's too big. It's an overreaction for the bookies. What are your views?
I have just seen the New Zealand side just come out now. And I was just having a quick look at it. It's a day game. It's 3:30 in the afternoon. Angus Gardner's the ref. Who have they got? Yeah, they've got Richie Mo'unga at 10. Damien McKenzie's at full back. The pack, it's changed around somewhat. Baden Barrett's on the bench and Leonard Brown's on the bench. 60, what's the handicap now? 65, 66. Somewhere on there.
67, depending where you look. Let me look at Sunbet quickly. 66.
66, eh? Again, man, it's a huge handicap. USA are in terrible shape. I think someone mentioned that, none of their internationals will be playing for them because they're all in the UK or wherever else they apply their trade. So it's going to be a makeshift American team. if the New Zealand team gels, they cover the handicap. If they don't, and there's a couple of errors here and there, and a couple of knock-ons and spilled passes, then that 66 can look so far away. But you know what? I look at it and I think, you couldn't back the USA on the plus. I just couldn't do that. You just know what it's like. You could be 50 down, 6-7 minutes to play, and we all know what happens. 2-3 tries at the death. It won't be the Americans that will be on the charge. It'll be the All Blacks on charge. And you'll just be hoping for some sort of forward pass or something. No. And the total points is 80.5.
80.5. So I'll give you the team points lines. We got 74.5 New Zealand and 5.5 USA.
5.5, eh? I'd say America get one penalty. It might be the first kick of the match. The first. In fact, that might be a bet. Go for the USA to score the first points. They'll get a penalty right in front of the post, and that'll be it. I would. No, I think handicap. I'd go with New Zealand. I would, because I just like to see them just running in try after try, and I think it could be like that if America are that bad. So I think look for the best minus and jump on that.
Yeah, they certainly do like clubbing a baby seal. Henrik, what do you think of this?
Brent, in the words of Oracle, this is rubbish in my opinion. And I'll probably get crucified saying New Zealand are rubbish, but it's two rubbish coaches against each other. I don't rate Gary Gold, I don't rate Ian Foster. USA, all their players back to the clubs in Europe, and I saw a tweet this afternoon or actually this evening. I think that's the first time in a long time, or that USA have picked a team only consisting of players that's playing in the US. So obviously that weakens them quite considerably. I don't take New Zealand, but the minus is probably the way to go here. But I don't like that, so I won't get too involved here. But that's probably the right bet here.
Yeah, I'll be having a look at New Zealand overs tries here. I haven't worked out what that line's going to be. It's obviously going to be flipping high, probably about 11.5 tries or something along those lines. Yeah. I'll probably be looking at the overs there. New Zealand averaged 8 tries a game against Australia. Yeah, fair point there, Sharks. Definitely am leaning towards the overs there. I also think the minus can arrive here. I think the USA might give it a little bit of stick early, but they're ultimately going to get run over. And the All Blacks defense is just going to be too strong for them. Gents, we've had a great show. We come to the end of the road, and you know what that means. It's best bet time. And let me start with Henrik and best bets for the weekend.
Yeah, Brent, I said I like that Southland Plus a lot, but it's not priced up everywhere. So I'm going to discard that one. Go Australia on the minus or Australia overs. I like the Aussies against Japan. Australia, they've been really impressive and they're on the up. And Japan, they haven't played in a while as a team, and a bit of a makeshift team that's been picked. So yeah, Australia, my best bet. The overs or the minus.
Right, Brendan?
Yeah, I agree with Henrik. I like both of those. But my best bet of the weekend will come in the Gallagher Premiership, and that's Sale plus 6.5 against Leicester Tigers.
Right, Sale the best bet there against Leicester Tigers. My best bet will probably be following on these guys. I haven't had, as I say, these particular games I don't follow as closely. I'll have that out in the newsletter sometime tomorrow. You can subscribe down there at the link below. Let me first of all start by thanking all the guys who joined us in the live chat. As usual, excellent contributions, and I must say, got me really excited for the weekend's rugby. And then to the two lads joining me, Brendan, certainly great to have you back on the show again. And have a good weekend and enjoy your time at Brentford. Let's hope they get a result for you.
On Sunday. Yeah, thanks a lot, man. Nice to see you two guys, and have a pleasant evening. And Henrik, I hope the brandy and Coke's quite close by now. The kids are fast asleep.
Yeah, I think Someone
Always
did say he's
close
got
by.
overs on brandy on the show. So he's ready to get stuck in. And the unders taker,
Right.
Hendrik, thanks so
I
much.
have to get a new one. My glass is empty.
The glass is empty. But yeah, Hendrik, I think the Undertaker, definitely a brilliant name for you. That one's going to stick along there with the likes of Couch Critic and the Conductor. Good having you. Thanks for coming on the show and getting the kids to bed early.
Oh, one last thing, Brent. I just wanted to say, has anyone got a tip for the T20 World Cup just to win it? Anything there? Any fancies?
I know Couch Critic will have. I was actually thinking of doing a show just on the long-term bets. But there's not a lot of time between now and when the thing really gets going on Saturday. We're looking at it. But
that's right.
It'll be interesting to see. There's lots of markets, top batsmen for various teams, top batsmen in the tournament, that sort of thing. Henrik, you got anything there?
Yeah, Brent. My cricket knowledge not that great. I like watching the cricket. I'll always get involved. Obviously, smaller bets than on the rugby. I'm always a bit of a fan on Pakistan. I like Pakistan, but yeah, they're so tough to trust them. Brendan will probably tell you as well. you don't know who they've bet on for the game. But I really enjoy Pakistan, and you can't take the Proteas. In these kind of games, it's tough taking it, especially when you get to the playoffs. But
was it last night or the night before? I think it was last night, right? West Indies got beaten by Afghanistan. And honestly, the West Indies looked like they were half asleep. They didn't even. They sauntered up to the wicket. They were chatting. I'd say they had a nice wager on Afghanistan.
So what do you fancy, Brendan? What do you fancy for the World Cup cricket?
Oh, believe it or not, I got about a 13.5 to 1 South Africa, and I thought that was like not a bad price. Sorry, Henrik, I know, but I just thought at that price I can't really get hurt. And then, believe it or not, I like England.
I like England as well.
It's 7-2. Yeah.
Well, gents, thanks very much. It's a great show with some good selections there. And have a cracking weekend. Goodbye to all the boys in the live chat. And let's hit the bookies hard, boys. See you next week, Thursday.
Thanks.